Welcome back to Call Beings. It's an exciting night for me because I get to talk about one of my favorite subjects in existence, which is Sasquatch, also known as Bigfoot, also known as a bunch of other names that a couple of our guests are going to help with. So I'm your host, DJ. Right down there is my homie right there.
Boston Bia, the co-host.
That's right. That's right. And right up there from the state of Maryland. Or no, wait, Delaware, right? No, Maryland.
Hey, from Maryland, but in Delaware now. So
yeah,
you're good.
Woo! The author of Bigfoot Influencers, our special guest co-host, Tim Halloran.
Thrilled to be here again.
Thank
Always
you.
fun.
It's good. I've been wanting to get you on here and do a Bigfoot roundtable, and we found some of the original gangsters. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to be joined by Jim Myers here shortly. There is nobody in the Bigfoot universe that does not know this lady right here. She is fearless. She has been out in places at night that would be very scary for many Americans. But this woman ain't got no damn fear. So party people, put your hands together for the OG, Sybilla Irwin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. Welcome back, ma'am. I was at least able to prove that I know how to say the name of your state now in our pre-show discussion. Do I get a thumbs up on that? There you go.
You said it perfectly.
There it is right there. There we go. We got it. Okay. In the background. Groovy. So welcome back, Sybilla. Phenomenal interview. I'm so glad. Can you talk about kind of like how you and Jim got together as hosts and co-hosts, and then we're going to go into kind of like the meat and taters of it once he arrives.
I met Jim, I think it was on a Colorado expedition. There's Jim.
Yeah! Those cowboy hats, brothers.
Hold on a second here. I got to grab my headphones.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Loud and
Okay, let me grab my earphones here.
We're live, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, he's used to it.
It's okay. All right. So you did a Colorado expedition. Okay.
Yes, and he had a witness that he wanted me to work with, and so I met with that witness in Colorado, and so that's how I got to know Jim, because he was good friends with some of my really best friends, Dennis Fole and Shannon Fole.
Oh, do they own the property? Are they the ones that, or no?
No, they were the ones running the expedition, and I had met them. I had met Dennis Fole back in 2008 on my first BFRO expedition. I had met Dennis, and just instant friends. Dennis Fole is just like salt of the earth, guys. You should have him on your show. I would
love to.
Oh, he's fantastic, and Shannon both. Like they're very much involved in the research. Dennis was the lead investigator for the Erickson project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this would be great. Yeah, if you can make that connection, I would love it. We had Tim and Dana Halloran. Why not have what's his first name? And Shannon?
Dennis
and Shannon.
Fole, yeah.
And so are they doing the logistics for the expedition that Jim's doing now, where they set up the camp? Is that them?
No.
Okay.
But they are going to have another Colorado expedition in the place where we had the most outrageous stuff happening. Like it was one of the most active expeditions I've ever been on, and terrifying. Like these creatures really kind of stayed in the sidelines until the very last night of the expedition, and then they were in and out of the campground, like where all of our tents were, the entire night. Like I never went to sleep. It's the only expedition where I never went to sleep, because you just start to, the adrenaline would just start dropping, because these things were literally running right by your tent. Like, and it was in this real high, what is that stuff called? Skunk cabbage, kind of like, and it's noisy. And they'd come running through, and you'd just finally get that adrenaline dump, and then you'd start to get sleepy, and here they'd come again. All sorts of wood knocks, and they were talking to each other, and then they'd come, screaming through there. It was just insane. Finally, about I think 5:30 or 6, I finally just got out of my tent. It was like I'm not going to sleep. It was
Sybilla,
crazy.
so
And I wasn't the only one at the when I crawled out of my tent and went to the campfire. I wasn't the only one. Like there were other people there. We sat and looked at each other like, what the
Is
bleep
happening.
was happening. And the crazy thing was there was this herd of sheep that had come right up above where we were camped. There was some sheep herder that kept coming up closer to our camp each day, and that last night it was just right on top of us. And one of the vocalizations I heard was, everybody was real quiet, and then there was this vocalization that sounded just like a kind of like a gorilla, like a really deep whoa whoa whoa, like this. I can't do it, but if you amplify that by depth and sound, that just this wolfing kind of sound, and then the sheepdogs. I think there were 5 sheepdogs that were, they were Great Pyrenees that were
Oh
taking
wow.
care of these sheep. They went nuts, like, and then this cacophony of dogs and sheep and Sasquatches, talking to each other. It was crazy. And so when Stan Courtney, who was on this expedition, he was recording like at all the expeditions, and he had his recorder up on that hill. And so when Stan walked into the camp, I said, check your recording. And I told him exactly what time. I said, because it was insane, the amount of stuff that went off. So he did, and he found it, and it was crazy. And you could hear these Sasquatch talking to each other.
Awesome. There we go.
Hey, welcome, Jim. Welcome in.
Had to
brother.
ditch the cowboy hat for these, so sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. At least Sybilla's representing for the Cowboy Hat Nation. Here,
There you
so
go.
It's all good. The
Yeah,
Texan-
I wore it just for you.
Thank you.
and you look
Welcome,
cool in
Jim.
it, too.
Sybilla, I have a question though. DJ, can I ask Sybilla a question?
Please do. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim. I forgot you.
No, that's okay. I'm just gonna go for it. So Sybilla, I hear that we've talked to a lot of people, and not as much as obviously yourself and Jim over the years. You hear that though when folks are on expeditions that it's sometimes it's quiet and then the last night before they leave, everything goes nuts. What do you guys make of that?
I don't know. It's a really good question. But literally, all hell broke loose that one night. And it started pretty early on, too. Like rocks, a bowling ball size rock got thrown like within, 10 yards of a group of 4 people. It started that way. And as that team was coming in, someone got hit in the back, like with a rock. And the person that was right behind them with their headlamp saw it hit the guy in the back, and he was like, "Oh!" And it's funny too because he was the non-believer. He was like the skeptic in the group. So
Didn't he take off after that, or was that not the same time?
No, I don't know. But the rock was thrown in total darkness except for the headlamp that was kind of shining, somewhere near that guy, and it hit that guy in the back, and it left a mark. And that's kind of how it started, and then it just got crazy. Even until the very next, like that day when we're all picking up and leaving, the guys who had created the latrine, they were picking up because they had a tent over it. It was really a really nice setup. They went to pick up the bags,
And they were gone.
and the bags were gone. Like,
Yeah, we've
duty?
seen that. They steal the
they
steal the crap bags.
Wow. Stolen duty. How dare you, Bigfoot?
Yeah, really, seriously.
But like,
Jim's
no,
leaving out nice gifts for you. He's got feathers. He had little Sasquatch dolls, and you take duty. Okay.
Yeah.
but no human being's going to do that.
No.
Yeah. So
Or even
None of us want to carry it home either. I can tell you that. So
Yeah, or like in the hunting camp where they put the innards at the edge of the camp, and then
Right.
they take those.
yeah,
Did you leave a tip for him?
yeah,
hey, Steve Wolf.
yeah.
Have you thought about what possible use they could have for that?
Oh God, don't
That's-
even want to think.
I have no idea.
No.
And maybe they thought it was something else.
Oh, maybe.
The only thing I could think of is if they could use it to mask their scent while hunting. If they put it in strategic areas, then possibly the prey, the deer, smell that, and maybe it masks the smell of the Bigfoot. That's the only thing I can think of.
That's actually really smart. Yeah. Anyway,
Because like dogs, they roll, wolves, they'll roll in it to mask their scent and then hunt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a great
Could be.
question.
Could be.
Tim. I like
Yeah.
that. The last question I wanted to ask Bill. So obviously, you know how like sometimes Bigfoots will come into camp and they'll try to make a s'mores out of your tent and shove it down. I guess they didn't do that to any of your teammates that night, huh?
Not that night. No, they started unzipping Dennis and Shannon's tent.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's the one where defecation and urination happen.
Happens inside the tent.
Yes. In that.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know if you've ever been out there when these things are walking around. Sometimes you're just frozen, like you just cannot move. Like sometimes your heart's beating out of your chest, and it's not panic, but it's just you're so hyper aware, and they were just, so they're laying there, and then something was playing with the other side of the tent and undid the Velcro that's holding your tent to the rain fly and everything to the poles. So on one side of the tent they undid those, and they heard it, because it's quiet,
It's loud.
you
Yeah.
can hear it.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, so they undid the Velcro on both sides, and then they walk around, and then the next thing, they're here in the tent, and Shannon was like, Dennis!
That sounds like, let me see if this will make that noise. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is amazing. I've heard of people just frozen in their tent. People have a 45 at their leg and they just can't
Yes.
move. So it's and there's not for the people out there. We have some of our true crime fans, so welcome, that are watching right now. There's nothing else in the jungle, in the natural world, that has an opposable thumb like we do. Even though Sasquatch's thumb is not pointed in the same direction as ours, it's more pointed in the same direction as these fingers. It's still an opposable thumb that they can use the way we use ours.
Yeah.
So.
we've had them unzip a tent twice during the night, and the occupant of the tent only knew it when he listened to the recording the next day, and he was asleep. But it unzipped it and zipped it back about 11:30, and then about 12:31 it unzipped it again and zipped it back. So they were looking in, checking on him, I said.
But so Jim, how much time between the zip and unzip though?
Oh, that's a good question. It wasn't long. It wasn't like minutes. It was seconds. They undid the rain fly. They unzipped the rain fly for sure. And I can't remember if they actually, because there were two zippers, one for the rain fly and then one for the tent. And I can't remember if they did the tent, but either way, you're listening to recording and you hear, and you're like, what the heck was that? Because he was out. He was asleep the whole time.
And how about the recent expedition you had, Jim, where they opened the truck?
Yeah, the tailgate. Yeah, they opened the tailgate. This is
Let it drop.
4 in the morning. More than let it drop. It's a brand new Dodge truck, so you have to reach in underneath to hit the button to open the tailgate. And he had a bunch of stuff. He had his topper tent on top of the truck to begin with. He had a whole bunch of stuff on the tailgate, weighing the tailgate down. He had it on the tonneau cover. So that tailgate, no way that tailgate was coming open by itself. So at 4 in the morning, we hear boom, 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 and it bounced 3 times.
Wow.
And they undid it and then threw it down, and it shook the whole truck, shook the tent up on top, and there was silence initially. It's funny how when something like that happens, everything's quiet, and then my buddy Wayne goes, "Was that for real?" And the gal in the tent goes, "Yeah, that was for real. What was that?" Scared him to death.
These experiences are so amazing. Their timing, their knowing that no one's going to use the facilities, no one's sitting by the fire. They kind of
Right.
time everything perfectly to do what they want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure that's for their protection, though, right? So that the whole purpose is that they want to keep their, like, let's just say, anonymity. So they don't, we're not, they want to do their own thing, right? That's what would make sense to me.
Well, they know. I'm convinced they know when we're in the tent, lying there. They know. I mean, I'm sure there's times when people get up to pee and they make a quick exit so they're not seen. But there's stories of guys getting out of their tent, a couple of guys getting out of the tents at the same time to take a leak. And while they're standing there doing their business, a rock comes rolling in front of them. I think that was Jason Frank. A rock came rolling in front of them. They're like, where did that come from? So, and it's the most vulnerable moment when you're standing there and you can't, or especially if you're, taking a dump, and then you're really vulnerable because your pants are down and everything. So,
Jim's
You
doing
just
a
had to go there,
360
Jim.
degree
I'm trying to think of how to say this in a polite
You could
way.
have said number 2.
Yeah, dropping a deuce. Let's say that.
Hey, Tim's got 2 kids that are PhDs, so I mean, he's supposed to be able to, to have these sort of oration skills in this vocabulary. Thank you, Tim.
Number 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2.
All right, Eric, he's already made his money tonight. All right, so we have a couple things I want to get from the chat, and then I have a table setter. Actually, this table setter is going to go to Sybilla, Sybilla, Jeff, and Tim. So, but before we get to that, KS Granny's asking whereabouts in Colorado. I think that is in reference to your expedition, Sybilla.
That it was in the flat tops, like northern Colorado.
Okay. There you go, KS Granny. She has another question as well. Jeff says he was frozen in the tent. Jeff says this has happened to him. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so you got, all right, no doubt. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us and sharing your experience here. And says, are your expeditions all over the USA? This is interesting because I was just going to ask Sybilla if she had been to Pennsylvania and done this, but are your expeditions all over the USA?
I have not been to Pennsylvania. I've been to Utah and Wyoming and Colorado lots of times, and Oklahoma and Texas and Georgia and Tennessee and Kentucky, Ohio. So I've been
That's a lot.
been to quite a few. Yeah, started in like 2008, and then of course that a lot of public expeditions, but a lot of private expeditions as well. And in Texas too. I used to lead expeditions here in Texas. I don't anymore, but I did. Now I don't anymore because the liabilities just seem too high.
You think?
That's interesting.
Yeah, because we've had like on expeditions where there was one where a huge log was thrown so close to a group, like you could hear it whirling through the air, like you could hear it coming, and then it landed, I would say maybe 15 feet in front of a group, and then 2 nights later, a tree was pushed down, and the tip of the tree landed just with like 10 or 15 yards from a group that was there, like the tip of the tree did. So you just kind of get where, gosh, I don't know if I want to be liable for.
Well,
if someone gets hurt, and I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's so sue happy anyway.
Anybody
So-
that leads expeditions, that's our worst nightmare. Somebody gets
Yeah,
hurt.
and I've had people leave expeditions not because they got hurt, but because a woman got bluff charged in like broad daylight. And this man, I guess I don't know if he just thought Sasquatch wasn't really real, and nothing was really going to happen on this, and he was just going to meet a neat group of people, which that happens sometimes where you don't get a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
But this woman was. We were part of a group, and we were looking at this incredible. We found this. It wasn't a tree structure. It was almost like tunneling through really incredibly heavy brush. It was like you could stand up through these tunnels. I mean, it was like this network of tunnels. It was really unique, and we were looking at those, and we had found a footprint in a like a. You know how they make deer plots in certain areas, and they plow them, and then they plant the grass seed. Well, there was a beautiful footprint impression in that field. So we knew this was like an active area. And then we started back she got kind of freaked out, and she goes, I want to go back to camp. I want to go back to camp. And so I was kind of leading this group over here, so I couldn't leave with her. She started back on her own, and maybe 3 or 4 minutes into her walk back to camp, I heard this screaming like someone was murdering her. Like, it was the most terrifying thing I've ever heard, like in the daytime. And so I go running out of there, and there's a couple of people just standing on the road, like looking around, like, wow, somebody's screaming.
And she was abandoned by
Like,
some
where
of
are
the
y'all
guys.
standing here? So
Yeah.
I turn and I run, and I start running. I get around the corner, and I see her. And as soon as she sees me, she just collapses, and she is absolutely hysterical. Like, she is beside herself. And this is a BFRO investigator too. Just totally caught off guard. This Sasquatch just started coming through this thicket just like a train, and she didn't even see it. It was just sound and fury, and she turned to run, and it was just right on top of her, and she thought, it's going to catch me, I'm going to die. But it didn't. She was a mess. And then so that man, he never came out of his tent after, he went in the afternoon, and he didn't come back out for the night.
Yes.
The next morning, he left a note like, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm out of here.
I found out later he had turned to someone and said, I didn't expect this. And, is this real? Is this really happening? And, I'm not prepared for this. And he left. So
It's the one I heard from, what's the gentleman's name from Kiamichi Bigfoot? Is it Millbrook or David?
Oh, wait,
No, it's not Millbrook. I'm getting his name wrong, but you know who I'm talking about. His story from when he started his website in 2000, which was called Southern Bigfoot or something like that. He said 2 law enforcement officers are one of the early contacts. He said it's still one of the best encounters he's had. And to make a long story short, it was a town police and a sheriff's deputy that were out, and they were going to go hunting, but they set up a little target range on a berm, and they were firing, and they heard something crawling up behind the berm. So they thought it was an armadillo. So they walked behind the berm to shoot it, and it was a Sasquatch on all fours. It stood up. They beat feet out of there. They left all the camping equipment, all the tents. They had other sheriff's deputies come back and clean up their camp. And then when they took David out there, he said, will you take me out there? And one of them said, hell no. The other one said, I will drive you out there. He never got out of the car. So
isn't that amazing?
He unloaded his camping stuff, and he waved from the vehicle.
Isn't that amazing? But there's so many stories. I've met people face to face. One guy was a former Marine who was camping with his sons in Oklahoma, not far from where I had my first sighting. And the kids, his 2 sons were like throwing rocks, and something started throwing rocks back. And so the kids, the kids, they didn't know. So they were just throwing rocks back. And of course, then the rocks started getting a little heavier and heavier. And then it started to get dark. They got in their tent, and there was enough moonlight at some point, and he had a 44 like right next to him, right in his tent, and his 2 boys. And he said, it was a moonlit night, and at one point he saw this silhouette, against his tent, and it was just standing right there. And he said, this is a former military guy. He says, I froze. He said, I absolutely, like almost supernaturally, could not move. He could not move. He couldn't, and he, of course, when you've got your kids in that situation, that just double amplifies. Oh my gosh, what kind of a situation have I put myself and my children in? And so as soon as it moved away and he didn't hear it anymore, then he grabbed up his 2 kids and his gun, and he threw them in the truck, and he left everything.
Yeah.
He left everything. And I know that's true because I got to see the campsite. Like 6 months later, he met us back at where that happened, and all it was exactly like you said. All of the stuff was still there. His ice chest was all ripped apart, and his tent was all smushed and down, but it was all still there. And he felt, I felt my heart went out to him because, as a man, he met us and he goes, I'm really I'm sorry, guys. I feel really bad that he's still dealing with the fact that he left all that stuff there and he hadn't been back since. And, so, but he did go down with us there in the dark and looked at everything, but we were, a pretty decent sized group. But even when we were down there, even in the group, there was a time when I felt like, oof, we don't need to be here any longer. We need to get out of here. Like, you can tell sometimes you're on a location and the energy shifts and it's time to leave. Like you can just feel it. And I remember thinking, man, this is not good. We need to get the heck out of here.
Well, Sybilla and Jim, I remember your first guest you had on when you launched your new podcast, listening to him, and he said the same thing. They won't go back to where it happened. It's life changing. I mean, do you both see that a lot?
Yes.
I don't, but I hear certainly about that. But here's the. Let me just make a comment about this whole topic of our safety and everything. And certainly, it's a reality. As Sybilla said, liability is a factor. You have to think about that. And honestly, I couldn't take people out as much as I do if I felt that there was an imminent danger to myself or the people I'm taking. So I've grown over the years to have a certain comfort level around Sasquatch that they're not going to hurt us. I mean, the last night hike group I took out, we had a rock thrown over us, broke a branch above us and landed and rolled down the hill in front of us. Had they wanted to hit us, they were on the hill behind us. Had they wanted to hit us, they would have hit us. And so, and Sybilla asked me the question later, was the rock thrown or was it lobbed? Which there's a big difference. And I said, well, thinking about the trajectory, it was lobbed. It was kind of just lobbed over our heads. But I don't know if Sybilla knows of anyone. So I've been doing this for well over 10 years. I've taken hundreds and hundreds of people out. I know scores of researchers around the country who have taken combined thousands of people out. I don't know of anyone that's ever been killed in that group. I don't know of anyone that's ever been seriously injured. You would think the people who are in the woods at night in the most vulnerable position would be the first ones that would be hurt if that was going to happen. And so my conclusion is that's not their intention. Now, there's times that, like Sybilla said, there's been times when I've been out with a group and I have seen some signs, physical signs that Sasquatch was there recently, got a very bad feeling, and didn't go any farther, turned around and walked away. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to listen to those intuitions, because should we push it farther, it may become very unpleasant. But again, I've never been hurt. I've had rocks thrown at me numerous times, near me, not at me, but near me. We've had them in our camp. We've had them around the tents. We've had them, lots of things, but they've never hurt us, although they could easily. So,
I do know a few people though that have been injured by infrasound. Like I do.
Yes, I've heard that too.
I'll give you that. Mm-hmm.
But let me. I want to say for Bia and for Scott, we're going to get your question in here next before I ask my question. But I wanted to pose this to Bia and our true crime audience that's here that's not that familiar. One of the things that we don't understand about Sasquatch and Bigfoot is how they are able to throw objects in the woods over long distances, sometimes striking branches and trees, and not hit somebody. So what Sybilla was saying about that person being hit in the middle of their back with a rock is kind of an anomaly. Mm-hmm. Normally, it will land whether you're lakeside fishing, whether you're in a boat, like you're in a canoe and you're fishing, or you're hiking through the woods. It will land near you and not hit you. How they're able to have things strike multiple objects in the woods and be so accurate, we don't know. Would you agree with that, both of you?
But I think they have a lot of time to practice their accuracy.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's really like, so you're saying like a pitcher just spending a lot of time at the batting cages with the pitching machine.
I
Well,
mean,
they probably start honing their skills though, like when they're young. I would
Sure.
think. Like they're
When they're-
watching their parents, do.
I think
take-
it's skill, though. I think it's skill.
Oh, highly skilled.
Yeah.
But
It's not
skills
by
are developed.
accident that they don't hit us.
No, they would.
I
hit
mean,
you.
we've been out. My previous research partner was out by himself one day and had a pine cone fall from a tree that was like 3 trees back off the trail. So he looked up to see where the squirrel was, and he sees another green pine cone come over his head and hit the same tree. So he looks behind him. There's nothing there. Turns around, another green pine cone. 4 of them came from somewhere in behind him. He could never see where, and missed all the other trees and hit that same tree 4 times. And so that's just, I mean, who of us could do that?
This is
Miss
like
everything
Sandy
except
Koufax.
the one tree that you want to hit.
Do you think maybe they hunt that way?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah,
believe they
probably.
have
Sure, you'd knock a deer silly, and then it's easy. They don't even have to run that hard. 'Cause the whole
If
thing-
they need that, I'm not convinced they can't knock them down with infrasound or some other way. Don't even need a rock necessarily,
Yeah.
but
At least stun them. Yeah.
Oh,
stun them. Yeah.
We are going to get into that with my question, because I really want to kind of try to define y'all's position, and we'll get Tim's also. But Scott McGinnis, he's one of our true crime fans, former corrections officer from Massachusetts. He says, "Hi, DJ and BA. Welcome guest. Been busy, just popping in. Can I ask a question posed by, quote, non-believers, unquote? Why are skeletal remains not found of Bigfoot? And if not, are they multidimensional?"
Go for it, Sybilla.
Well, I mean, I think just the nature of the way bones disappear, like animals scavenge their bones. Like I've talked to a whole lot of people that have spent a whole lot of time in the woods, and most of them have never seen a bear skeleton, or a big cat skeleton, or
Particularly predator skeletons for some reason.
yeah. So plus, I believe they bury their dead. And they put like big rocks on top of them, like they make big cairns of rocks to keep people from exhuming them. There was a place in Honeby, a woman that had a restaurant there that I used to communicate with pretty regularly, and she told me the story about a trucker who came over this hill right. I mean, and it all coincided with when that one was shot in Honeby, Oklahoma. Like I mean, and the crazy thing was the woman that owned the restaurant didn't know about the shooting yet. And of course, the trucker who came over the hill didn't know anything about the shooting, but he comes over the hill and there's 2 Sasquatches carrying a Sasquatch across the road. And, he sees it in his headlights, and it shakes him up so bad that he pulls into her restaurant and parks there and waits until she opens. And she said that, she opened the door and she, asked him what he needed. And she said he was shaking. He was so shooken up, shaking so hard he couldn't even drink his coffee. Like it really took him a long time. And he finally told her what she had seen. And then it was like, much later when she found out, what had happened at that home just up the road from her restaurant where the Sasquatch had been shot.
I'd never heard that story before. What year are we talking about now?
Oh, it's called the Siege of Honeby. I'll have to look it up. I don't remember. It was before I got before I ever got to Honeby, so it had to have been before 2008. A friend of mine bought the property just catty corner to where that event happened, and that's the very first time like I got hit with infrasound was right across that thing. So infrasound is a real deal. I've been hit with it at least 3 times, and each time it was a different effect.
Yeah, I've heard some stories about incapacitation and even some permanent maladies with interior organs as a result of infrasound. So
Yeah,
that is something-
blood in their urine and things like that.
Yeah, I think it was
I
it
know,
was a
I know two
female.
people that's happened to, two men that's happened to.
So
But the sorry,
no, go ahead, Jim,
I was
please.
just going to say the second half of that question: could there be interdimensional? My answer would be yes. They can be. Is it possible, therefore, that they die somewhere else? I think yes. But I do agree with Sybilla. I do believe when they die here, they bury their dead or they dispose of the remains somehow. There's quite a few stories of Sasquatch being hit by 18-wheelers or and then the body disappearing.
Wow.
When someone goes to get help or to get and they come back and the body's gone, you don't move 1,000-pound body just like that. I mean, it's just gone. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you would need some sort of a. I mean, out in the wild, where they put the rocks, you would need a backhoe, and
Sure.
if one that was of anywhere near some of the ones that you guys have encountered here in the Northwest, you're going to need a lift truck. I mean, you're going to need a
Yeah.
big sling and so forth. You're not going to get like four guys. You're going to toss it up in a pickup truck.
no.
I agree with what Jeff's saying here. I'll talk about government later because you guys asked a question of Dave Paulides that I think I can give you an even deeper answer on just because of being read into SAPS and what I think about the Department of Interior and all that.
Please do.
Well, yeah, this isn't about me. We'll get to that at the end. So let me get to the question I want to ask all three of you. Okay, would you guys define what your position is on the paranormal, Sasquatch? What you think? What defines how your position has evolved? I too don't believe that this is just some ape running around in the woods. I think there's more to it, just because of the powers that they seem to have are inexplicable. So we might as well deal with them, right? And try to analyze them. And we're going to have Sybilla tell about what she told on your show to Dave about Jasper, Texas, because that blew my mind. It blew my mind. That's one of her stories that blew my mind. But if you would please, Sybilla, ladies first, state what your position is about the paranormality of Sasquatch.
When I started, I was just kind of like everybody else. Like, this is just some unrecognized, primate, apish kind of species. And because a lot of people were describing them as kind of being a cross between, kind of human and apish. So that's kind of what I thought until we got this man reporting on his property in Jasper, and immediately there was some things that were really unusual. Like when he would come out, it was just a weekend property. They had a little camper there, and I mean a little camper there. It was probably like a 12 to 15-foot camper, and it was him and his wife, and they had a young son, and they would and this was way out in the forest. And it was kind of close to a hunt club way the heck out there, but it was just forest. And when he would come out, and they had a light, they had a motion detector light. And when they would come out on Friday evenings, it was always off. And he just like, gosh, this thing, I just keep, he would just replace the bulb and replace the bulb and replace the bulb and just, it's thinking, man, I really need to just get a new one of these. Well, one of the times he went up to replace the bulb, he realized something was just backing the bulb out. And he had to get a ladder to do all this. Like it wasn't, he had to climb up on the ladder. So it's way up there and something is backing the light bulb out. So that was interesting. And they had put a huge doghouse out there. It took 4 men. It was like a heavy plywood doghouse. And it took 4 men to load it into the truck and 4 men to get it out and put it where they wanted. And one of the times they came out there on the weekend, and that doghouse was like 40 yards from the house. And then that's when he saw the footprints. So that's when he realized, I guess this is a Sasquatch. So then he filed a report with the BFRO, and then we showed up. And so I'm thinking, just like the rest of us, that this is just some apish thing. But these creatures were so incredibly intelligent about everything that was tried there. And like I said, we had eight. They had eight of the finest Reconyx cameras, $800 a piece, that were borrowed. And my friend, who was also a BFRO guy, Ron from Houston, he would, where they were feeding they started, putting food out for them, and they started putting food in this stand of trees that was away from the camper, like, so that they would have privacy. They built a little, first they were just putting it out there, and then they built a little, a feeding station. And so Ron started putting one, he was really excited. He called me and said, I've got eight of these cameras up, and we're going to get, he was so excited, we're going to get images, because I have the cameras so that they're redundant. Like, if this one goes off, this one's going to catch. I mean, he's a brilliant guy, like,
All angles.
So, at all angles, even had one pointed down at the feeding station, to capture at least hands coming through or whatever. So I think it was a Friday evening, called, said, I've got them all set up. It's going to be amazing. So Saturday morning, the phone rings, and I make the mistake of holding the phone up to my ear, and he's screaming, like, he's so mad. Like, he is so mad because he was like, he said, like, they turned them all. And he's just telling me, like, what they did. Like, they turned the cameras away. Everything was rearranged, and not a single image of anything Sasquatch. And so he said, well, he's driving in town, so I'm going to go get angles, like metal things. I'm going to screw them with long screws into the trees. They're not going to be able to move these cameras. Well, then the next day he calls. This time I don't put the phone up to my ear, and he's yelling again. I was like, and he's cussing, like, he's mad. And not only did they move the cameras, they bent, like, he sent me pictures, like, he bent the metal right, to 90-degree angles. And even some of the cameras were then pointed at the camper and his tent. Like, they're like, yeah, well, we'll show you. We know exactly what you're trying to do. Like, so he sent me a lot of the photos, and he sent me the sequences that showed, like the one where it was over the food thing. You'd see images. The food's there. Then all these sticks are starting to fly through, and then the camera has to reset itself eventually, and then the food is gone. Then, so these things are so smart. They figured out the sequence of when the camera has to reset itself. Like, how?
Yeah, how do you explain that?
When something's doing that, I mean, I wouldn't even have known that. Like, I wouldn't even have known that I could, as a human being. And I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but
You're very educated, ma'am.
Well, and we hid game cameras in the grills of our vehicles when we were there. We hid them in ice chests. We hid them in flower pots, the doghouse. Every place that I would have been caught on a camera trap. And I guarantee you, I'm on a lot of camera traps in Kentucky.
From your year there, yeah.
I used to trespass all the time. But these
5
things
years there, actually.
They would bust them every time. And he sent me, like I said, it was by the time he gave up, and he finally did just give up, like a 6 to 8,000 pictures, not a single one of a Sasquatch. Oh, and another thing he did, which was really amazing, since he knew that the Sasquatches were backing out that light bulb, he says, I'm gonna put, an infrared camera, a thermal camera, I'm gonna put it right where that light goes. And so again, calls me, is so proud of himself. It's all up there. The wires are down, but he didn't think they'd be able to see him or that they'd even notice any of that stuff. Calls me the next morning.
Cussing.
What's going on? And he's cussing. And then he said, you know what they did? He said, they didn't destroy it. They didn't yank it out. They unscrewed the cables at the bottom.
And you also did mention the batteries. The batteries drain. And I was just looking up in the cab archive, one of your colleagues from the UFO community, her husband was like a Washington Republican lobbyist named Chase Klutsky, and she had a professional athlete that she would not share the name of who called. It was a professional baseball player, that had her come out to her property. She had charged up all her stuff like you. She shows up on site. She puts her tables out. All the batteries are dead. So when people say there's no paranormality, now I'm going to toss it over to Jim, because one of Jim's points that he made that I loved the other day when they interviewed the great Dave Paulides is he said, show me an ape that's going to think to be able to try to set off these cameras the way that they do. The way, if we put this in somewhere in the jungle in Africa, we would be able, in Namibia, whatever, we'd be able to get photos of these gorillas and apes. And in fact, Jane Goodall has many thousands of hours of them, but yet we don't have that. So that right there is a distinction. Jim, what do you think makes leads to your thoughts about paranormality and abilities of these creatures?
Well, like Sybilla, I started off the same way. I assumed they are an uncategorized great ape, but right at the beginning, when I started doing research, I made the decision that I was going to follow the evidence wherever it led me. So I purposely did not read a lot of books when I started. I didn't want to know what other people's opinions were initially. I wanted to do my own research, get out in the woods, and where my research led, I would follow it, because I didn't want a preconceived idea of what they were, even though I thought they were probably a great ape. And my research very quickly led me into the paranormal. And so I can't imagine how someone's been doing research for 10, 20, 30 years and has never encountered anything like this, because it confronted me through my own experiences of having them disappear in front of me, very close personal friends having them disappear in front of them, their ability to emit light out of their eyes, their ability, appearing, disappearing, all these things. That was early on. I started having these experiences, and so I couldn't deny it. I couldn't say to these other friends who had these experiences, no, that didn't happen. No, you didn't see that. No, because these are people who have no reason to lie, zero. And so it confronted me. I mean, I either had to face the fact that what I was experiencing was a paranormal experience, or stop researching, because then I started to do some more reading and realize that there's researchers out there who said then and still say, it's just a great ape. There's zero paranormal about that. And I'm like, how can you say that? How can you even say that? And so, she was mentioning the camera traps. I have two quick stories I'll tell you. I have a very good friend in Missouri. He's a surgeon, has top-of-the-line equipment, and they were out in an area in Texas. They were determined to get Sasquatch on camera. They had they weren't even thermal, they were Starlight cameras, top-of-the-line. I mean, really sophisticated cameras. They set up, there was an outhouse, old abandoned outhouse. They got this little toy, like these toy dogs that are actually like a little purse. You unzip it and zip it back like a dachshund, you can put pencils and stuff in there. They filled it with meat and some other stuff that would be appealing to a carnivore. They put it up on top of this outhouse, and they had cameras facing the outhouse and the next camera, and then the camera facing the outhouse and the next camera. Went all the way around. You could not interrupt that without being seen. They came back. The dog, the little toy, was gone. No camera recorded it being taken. And then it was brought back, and it was all covered in slime, like it had been swallowed, put in, in a stomach, and then barfed back up, and then put back up there.
Toy dog?
It was just nasty. They said it was nasty. It was covered in slime and like stomach juice, and it was put back up there again. And like, what is this you gave us? But no camera recorded it. There was never an interruption. And so Then I have another friend that spent a month in the woods in Minnesota
Yes.
last summer. He had 24 cameras pointed in the woods at his camp, at each other, and had generators, had Starlink out there. You know, we're going to get this on camera. I just said to him, okay, but you're not. I'm telling you right now, you're not.
Adam
And
Colt. Yeah.
so Colt. So he great guy. Love Colt to
Yep.
death.
Awesome
He as soon as the generator stopped functioning and the cameras turned off, he had stuff hitting his tent. He had them running around. The moment the cameras stopped, a gorilla doesn't have that kind of intuitive intelligence to say, hold, wait,
To pair
generators
those two
down,
things.
now go for it. And so he said it was uncanny. He's like, how can I not get these guys when the cameras are running? And as soon as the camera stopped, or the generator stopped, they were all over him. And so the only thing he ever captured was eye glow one night back in the woods. He did capture that on camera, which I've captured as well, but never them physically walking across the camera space. They understand cameras. You can put audio recorders all around the camp, and I've done this. They never bother the audio recorder. They'll come into camp, they'll vocalize, they'll talk. They don't care. You put a video there, and they're gone. And so when people come to me and they say, man, I just can't go camping anymore. I'm too afraid. And I said, okay, here's what you're going to do. Buy 2 game cameras, put them on either side of the camp, and point them both at your tent. And you'll have a nice quiet night because they're not gonna walk in front of that camera. They may turn it around the tree and come bother you, but usually they don't. But they're not gonna interrupt that infrared, beam. How do they know that? You got me. I don't even try to explain it because I can't. But
Well,
they
I do
know
think
the difference.
I do think they can see in the infrared range.
I believe so too. Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because in Crittenden, for the Erickson project, there was they at one time they put up an infrared little light, and they had recorders going, and they had put food down on the berm, and the Sasquatch walked up and shielded his eyes from the infrared, and then turned
Interesting.
around and
That's a great-
did not take the food. So
That is a great, and Bia actually has a question she wants to ask you guys about this that has to do with some other frequencies that they may be able to detect. But before we do that, I get to get to my friend, the former baseball scout, Tim Halloran, to talk about. I realize paranormality may not be a part of your hypothesis about Bigfoot, but just state what yours is, how and why, and etc.
Well, first I'll say, because I'm not out in the woods, I haven't done a couple expeditions. So the folks on the call, it's, I'm just, I'm not a researcher. So it's, and I'm not I'm not out in the woods like everyone else is. What I will say, from talking to hundreds of people, witnesses, researchers, and, folks like Sybilla and Jim, that there's obviously a biological side, so when we talk paranormal, people think, oh, paranormal means,
Doesn't exist.
ghosts and things. That's not what paranormal is. Paranormal basically is things that have abilities that we don't understand. So, these things, apparently you hear about, scat and hunting and throwing rocks. So there's a physical footprints, there's a physical side to that and a biological side. But then even the individuals I talk to that feel that it is, an undocumented, species of ape, they still, you hear some of them talk about eye glow, but and there's really still not an explanation for that, because there's nothing else, there's not a mammal, there's some people that pull a couple things that but nothing like this. And then you also hear things, they hear things that happen in the woods and they can't explain, so they may not relate it to a potential Bigfoot or Sasquatch. But here's one that I know Sybilla and Jim can attest to. You hear a lot of people talk about how they sneak up to camp. You don't hear them,
right,
and these are big creatures, But then when they're seen, they bolt out of there and they make like a train. Well, how did they sneak? How did they sneak up to camp with
No.
leaf fall
Yeah.
and everything else without being heard? So, yeah. So I don't know. I'm smart enough to know that I have no idea. But you
Well,
hear, yeah.
and sometimes they'll walk into your camp like noisily, like you
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hear them or sometimes they'll do kind of that stealth walk where
Mhm.
they'll take one step on crunching leaves and then they'll wait a few seconds
Mm-hmm.
and then they move in. Here comes the next crunch, and then so you hear them walk up, but then you never hear them leave.
Never hear them leave. Yeah.
Can't tell you how many times that's happened.
And you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting. You're like, what are they doing? But then
Yeah.
they're not there when you open it up. So
And one time, my son and I had an experience where one of them, and I had a recorder going. One of them got probably within 10 yards of us on a substrate that there's no way. It was sticks and weeds and dry
Crunchy.
leaves, crunchy stuff. There's no way, literally no way. But then he broke a stick and it made a really loud noise. He was going to put it in the Dakota pit fire, broke this stick and it popped really loud and this thing took off. And we could feel like the earth shake through our feet. Like it was, and the dogs, my next door neighbor's dogs, started screaming like they were, being murdered because this thing ran right toward them and then down their property into the tree line. But and my son, of course, he was living with me, but he was still a little bit sitting on the fence about whether this really existed or not. And after that night, like he didn't even have to see it. He said a lot of cuss words, and then he said, "What in the world, is that heavy?" He said, "Mom, that was like an elephant running away from us." And he said, "I could feel," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And then it got down to the edge of the woods, and we're standing there talking, and he's still kind of flipping out, and then it started like I think it was popping its teeth. It's the only thing. It was happening real rapidly, and it was loud because that tree line was at least 250 feet away, but you could hear something. And it was creepy as all get out. And he goes, "Mom, I love you, but because we were going to spend the night." And he said, "I love you, but I'm
but
not
no,
down here. You can if you want, but I'm not doing it."
I'm out.
I'm out. Yeah.
Go Sybilla's son. I dig it, man. Tell
Yeah.
Mom we are Audi 5000.
Yeah.
Sybilla's took, as Meatloaf said, do you remember that song? You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yes.
You did. I was going to say, and this is my point about paranormality, and I'm kind of backing up their point. Physics says that this isn't possible.
Oh yeah.
Physics says that on that type of substrate or terrain or forest floor, if you want to use those terms, that they could not walk up on you without you hearing them. Especially when you've seen how they walk, where one leg is at 90 degrees and the other leg is contacting the earth. They're not floating. So there has to be some sort of, that in itself is something that we scientifically cannot explain, how they can approach you completely silent
Right.
on a forest floor that does not lend itself to silence. And then they can egress and sound like a locomotive going through the woods, to
And
where
it did.
Sybilla's son is saying, "We're going back to the house, Mom."
Yeah, and it was F-bombs for like two minutes. It was nothing but F-bombs. And the interesting thing too is that we heard some brush pop about 10 minutes before this event happened. And I just kind of whispered in my head, said, "You heard that right," because it was down below us. You heard brush pop, so we were kind of focused on that. We had no idea that this thing was sneaking up on us, on our right side, because we never heard a sound. So,
It's just like it's inexplicable, like the eye glow. We don't understand. We understand eye shine when we have a light source that can reflect off the cornea of this animal, but we don't understand eye glow. It's not something that we can explain yet. So it's a paranormality.
and I've
Jules
seen
is-
it. Well, I've seen it. I've seen white eye glow, and I've seen red.
We had your colleague Matt Knapp on here, and his first sighting in Oklahoma. That's what he saw. He saw two creatures, and he saw the eye glow, and he could see the outline of them. He couldn't make out facial features, but he definitely said, "Oh, that's about an 8 or 9 foot thing over there with glowing eyes."
Well,
right
and some
over there.
people have even seen the eye glow illuminates like leaves, or like if there's a limb in front of them, like illuminate the leaves in front, like it's projecting light also. It's just,
You
it's
can see them
crazy. But
blink, right? When
yeah,
they
yeah,
if they
seen
Oh
blink,
that.
yeah,
or
yeah,
they
you can see them
come out from
blink.
behind the
Yeah,
tree. So,
yeah.
and Jules is saying here, just want to point out that for people who don't study this stuff, they don't have to be in the woods. They can and have been seen in places other than the woods. That's true. And I will say here for everybody, I've said this because I was talking to one of your colleagues and he referred to me as a researcher or something. And I said, I'm not a researcher, I'm an analyst. I'm taking in all this information from all of you and I am analyzing it and trying to make sense of it. But I don't consider, like Tim, I don't consider myself a researcher because I've only been out a couple of times. So I just analyze all this stuff. And to me, I'm doing what Jim's doing. I'm taking what the evidence is and I'm saying, I'm going to let that lead me like any detective. You don't just go with, oh, I want this person to be guilty. So that, you go where the evidence, I know, like Karen Reed, right, Tim? Tim is also very familiar with the true crime case that B and I have spent a year on. But anyway, so also I'll talk about the SAPs real quick, and then I'm going to turn it over to Bia for her question. And it is this. So I've been read into SAPs, am read into SAPs now, and I suspect this is probably not a Department of Defense problem. This is a Department of Interior problem. And the reason that I have talked to people in the UFO community, but because I have no contacts at the Department of Interior that runs the national parks, I can't get to somebody that can tell me if there's a SAP that covers Sasquatch. But I would tell you, if you ask me, I am nearly 100% sure that there is because of the incidents you guys know about at Fort Lewis, at Battle Mountain, at what's the other one? Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
And then the random ones that you guys know where those guys with the beards have showed up because one got hit by an 18-wheeler and then all of a sudden black SUVs are showing up, and so forth. So I believe there is a SAP that knows about it, that probably has a body. I almost cried when I heard about some helicopter shootings where there were sort of like side-by-sides in the woods that were chasing a female and little ones, and then they popped the mother and as she was shooing the little ones back to the woods. But it was basically like sniper from a helicopter that fired on this female. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that. Would it surprise anybody here if that were true? No.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
It
No.
wouldn't surprise me at all. But I do agree with Dave where he said that the government is not in the business of presenting you with information that it cannot explain. That could be UFOs. That could be Skinwalker Ranch and all the things that happened when Bob Bigelow owned that place under government contract. And it also goes for Bigfoot, Sasquatch, because they if they can't explain it and
Or
they don't
control
want
it.
or control
Right.
it, and they don't want, then they're not going to talk about it. So I believe
They can't
it's really
protect
simple
you
stuff.
from something they cannot control,
That right, exactly, like UFOs.
like UFOs.
So Bia, you had something talking about frequency. Let's get that in there and see what our team of experts here thinks about that.
I feel like my question has now shifted from this morning when I
Okay.
spoke with you.
Okay.
Maybe because I kind of feel like she touched on it. So all right. So,
But there is a frequency, right? Like if someone can communicate with that camera to their cell phone, it could not even be light that they're seeing. It could be an electronic frequency, right? That was your question, really.
yeah. But now I'm more intrigued by the freeze. And then I was kind of thinking, do you think when people, is it fear, or do you think there's something in the infrasound that's causing the person to freeze?
Freeze. It's a really good question. I've been in my tent. There was one time I was in my tent and I heard something walk up, and I had that paralyzing fear. Like your heart is going to break your ribs, like it's pounding so hard, and then you just know whatever's out there can hear your heartbeat because it's just like it's in your ears and everything. And then the next thing I know, I wake up and it's
You're
morning.
waking up.
So
Yes.
I went from sheer terror to waking up in the morning, and I remember being so just really it was bewildering, but it was also kind of scary because I like how in the hell did I go from I feel like I'm about to die to falling asleep, and there's some break in that doesn't make any sense to me because there've been other times when they've walked up to the tent and I've been somewhat afraid, but then you lay there until you figure they're gone and then you go to sleep, but you remember it all. But for me, there was a break. So I don't know. I don't know what that was. And I'm not the only one who's experienced that.
No, I've experienced it too. You
So
think
I don't
I'll
know what-
never fall asleep. If something like this happens, I will never fall asleep. And the next thing you know, you wake up and you're like, crap, I wanted to be there and experience all that. And then you wake up. And so it's like, okay. And it's out of your control. It's really out of your control.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's real creepy. That's real creepy. I don't know what that means. And I don't consider myself an expert, by the way.
no.
I mean, I'm just someone who's
I
been
know.
doing this a long time, and I've had so many opportunities. Being in at the Crittenden habituation site for 5 years, like what an incredible opportunity that was, and so I don't ever consider myself an expert. I'm just someone who's been doing it for a while and been out in the field quite a bit and have seen a lot of things and experienced a lot of things, from vocalizations to everything in between, and then have the opportunity to work with hundreds of witnesses who have seen Sasquatch up close and do their witness sketches. And so
So
Agree
essentially,
100%.
Sybilla does. I'm sorry, Jim.
I just said I agree 100% with Sybilla.
yeah, but I don't
Yeah,
consider myself an expert. Like if you ask me what these beings are, I cannot tell you. But do
No,
I
but
believe
love
they're
you
do I
guys, so
believe
have
they're
to call you experts.
multidimensional? Yeah.
I just have to heap praise on you. It's
Oh, well.
what we do on Cab.
I-
We want
I-
to celebrate you. So
Well, I
love
just
you
want you to
guys.
know but I don't feel that way about myself.
Yeah.
No,
There's no real experts, right? But
there
I
aren't.
totally
There
agree.
aren't.
Yeah.
but there are people who know more than others and whose aperture is open wide enough to be able to know more than others.
Yeah.
And because when we talk about, and I don't want to attack a certain group here that believes a certain way, but people will tend to believe what they want to believe.
Yes.
So if you have a view of something and you want to remain there, you will look for the evidence that supports the view
Yes.
that you have.
Yeah.
And you will try to ignore the evidence that does not support the view that you already have. You see it in politics, and
You do.
it is not any different at all.
Yeah.
That's why our country's so divided, because people
Yeah.
decided, no, it's definitely this way, and no, it's definitely that way. It can't possibly be somewhere in the middle. That's not possible. So the same can be said
Correct.
for Bigfoot. I was shocked when Dave said that his life was threatened. Like,
Yeah.
who
Isn't
the
that
hell
crazy?
is going to threaten David Pilates? Are you out of your mind? Like,
I'm going
I
to
wasn't
kill you
surprised-
because
I
we don't
wasn't
think the same
surprised.
way.
yeah.
I wasn't surprised at all. I mean, as loony bins of people have been like since COVID, nothing surprised me anymore.
It's
After that.
unfortunate. It's disappointing,
Yeah.
but
Yes.
not surprising.
Very,
But
very
there
sad.
are
I was
there are
shocked.
there are researchers though that are going out there and have never experienced anything weird. I mean, I get that. There are people who go out and who camp and
True.
and have had flesh and blood kind of things and have never experienced orbs or the glowing eyes or infrasound. So I mean that's true. That's happened. I mean,
And-
I've had paranormal experiences since I was a kid, but I have 3 brothers who have never experienced a paranormal thing in their life.
Well, Sybilla, I haven't experienced the moon, but I feel pretty confident that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Mike Collins at least orbited it. So not everything do I haven't
Right.
seen Bigfoot or Sasquatch. I've got some pretty good photos of tracks. But I believe you because there's no way all these people could be lying. There's a lot of people that believe in a lot of things that we can't see and feel and touch. So that's, I mean, it takes you having an open mind that we don't know everything and we haven't figured everything out yet.
Right. Or it takes it happening to you.
Yeah.
You know, like,
if it happens to me, then I don't need proof. You
Right.
know what I mean?
But-
Like you go from,
exactly. Yeah. Once, and you'll hear witnesses say that, I don't care who believes me. I
Yeah,
know what I saw.
That's right.
I know what I experienced. And, I mean, it's nice to have validation for sure. And to know that you can share your story and there's going to be people who get you and say, yeah, that's 100%, what happened to me too. But, a lot of them, they're like, and a lot of them will say, I don't care if it's ever proven, if this species is ever recognized, it does not matter to me. In fact, maybe it's a better thing if they don't.
for them, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
I think
Sybilla and
everyone-
Sybilla and I have talked about the fact that it's possible for some of these researchers who insist that there is nothing paranormal, they're purely physical. I think there's people who are just not open to the paranormal in their lives in general. And so they will find a way to explain away everything that happens to them in some way as not being paranormal. And that's okay. That's okay. If that's their paradigm, I'm not going to try and argue them out of that, because we are a sum total of all of our experiences. And so how we interpret those is different between us. And so it's very possible that, like for instance, I believe our Sasquatch outpost is haunted is not the right word. It's highly spiritual. All right.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that happen. I don't think it's malevolent, but we have an escape room. I'll be sitting there watching the cameras while people are going through the escape room. Some groups come in, and all of a sudden there's orbs flying all over the room on the camera. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And then another group comes in right after them, and nothing. There's nothing. And I'm like, I can't explain that. It's not dust. Because the groups are going in there doing the same things, but I can't explain it. But I'm watching this on camera and saying, that's bizarre, but but it's there. I can see it on the camera. So, but I fully understand how people from their own experiences interpret things differently. That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, it's just, I guess at a base level, if you can just do this in your life and just say, there are things in our world, in our reality, that we don't understand yet. Right. If you can just have that in your mind, then that is enough of an opening of your aperture. If you think everything is explicable, well, we're not going to be able to amaze you then. And it's,
Sure.
But if you realize that there are things we can't explain. By the way, there's two things I want to say. One is, if you're in Colorado, especially Bailey, Colorado, and you have not been to Sasquatch Outpost, I recommend you go. I loved going there, getting to see Jim, getting a tour of the place, getting some Bigfoot / Sasquatch stuff to bring home. And it is just, it's what everybody tells you. It's an awesome place.
Thank you for that.
Oh, yes, sir. And now I have a question for everybody on the panel, but I'm going to start with Jim. And I'm going to ask you, Jim, bucket list place to go and research. Money is not a problem. Somebody will finance your way to go on this expedition. And it could be anywhere in the world. It could be anywhere in this continent, wherever you see fit. Where would that be and why? And maybe even who would you go with? Ooh, you could sweeten it up a little bit.
Probably Alaska or Canada, I would say. I've done a little research in Canada. I've never been to Alaska. So that would probably be a bucket list location. Who would I want to go with? Sybilla, of course. Who else would I want to go with?
There you go.
Yeah, I love that. No, I've got Sybilla, absolutely Sybilla. I would love to take my research partner Wayne. I'd love to go out with Dave sometime doing some of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, It's probably Alaska.
Well, I'll tell you what. That's the one place I would be scared to go because they're so aggressive.
No,
All
I
the
agree with you.
encounters I hear are very aggressive there.
I agree with you.
Okay. Well, Jim's like, bring it on. Come get some. And wear
Bring
my
it
hat.
on. I got Sybilla. I'm good.
I'll have Sybilla Irwin. We'll have skull caps under a cowboy hat. All right, Tim, where are you going on your dream expedition, brother?
You know, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Jim, because it's you think about if again we haven't decided where these these creatures have come from, but you hear, if you look at the map and you just look at the density of woods and forests between that west coast, from Alaska down through Canada into the Pacific Northwest, so I'd have to be there. Besides you, DJ, I'm trying to think who I'd take with me.
Yeah, there you go.
So obviously my partner in crime, my wife Dana. Maybe there's so many people. I've been out in the woods with Les Stroud because I'm working on the documentary with him, but it hasn't been a full blown expedition, and I might piggyback on one of those with him, because we've got some upcoming, but that would be pretty cool.
That would be so cool.
Do that,
Cool.
yeah. And I got an open invitation, so I just have
that would be, dude. Take him up on it, man.
Yeah, we've got some coming
bushcraft,
up for the film, so I'm just I'm just gonna have to make it happen.
You can't let that one get away from you.
Yeah.
It just so happens that the lady over to your left has 20 acres in New Hampshire. So I don't know if she would open that up for
researchers
to come on her property. But
Yes, for sure.
I can't
Nice.
give away some of the filming, but we have he was in that area at one point already. Yeah.
And the fresh water source, I should mention, the fresh water source is quite near the house on the property. So I'm just got to be Sasquatch somewhere around there. Bia, if you were going to go on a first expedition, where do you think that would be?
I want to show you proof. I did write Alaska. I wasn't just stealing answers.
I wasn't just stealing.
I did. I swear to you, I wrote Alaska, and I was like, okay. Anyways, but then you said it was more dangerous, so I'm like, that's it. I'm just gonna go to Hawaii.
Yeah,
I've been to Alaska. Highly
I'm just saying,
recommended. But
yeah,
So-
that is not on my list of places to go and research Sasquatch for only that reason. So
I didn't realize. See that was I didn't know that they were more aggressive in Alaska, or else I would have picked somewhere else.
Yeah.
the natives there, the indigenous Alaskans, I mean, they tell some very harrowing encounters, and the Sasquatch get really pissed off when you are near their bodies of water where they go and get their salmon. The grizzly bears even stay away from them. It's just, I don't know.
And then I think I would take you and Jules, because I don't.
Yeah.
I want to take
Ooh, go for
odd
it.
number. So
Yeah, Jules, our chat moderator, she's on Simeon Hines' Bigfoot meeting. They have like a Bigfoot Zoom every week for years now. And she's on that. Dr. Simeon Hine, you guys know him.
Yep.
And Jules is she's an experiencer, like I said, of all three. Very young when she saw Bigfoot at a meadow at the bottom end of her street. And then she's seen a UFO in a parking lot with her mom in a supermarket parking lot. And I don't remember about her paranormal encounters, but yeah.
Hey DJ, before you go on, I do have to say,
Yes, please.
down there where Sybilla is, Southeast Oklahoma is crazy too. So that would
Yep,
be
yep.
a fun place. I don't know about fun is the right word, but that would be interesting to go down there.
Yeah. Especially Honebee, Honebee in
Yeah.
that area there. Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. You guys are in the chat. Yeah, I know. Heather, you have a question. Heather Honey's here from Alabama. She is also has a true crime show, but when I told her you guys were going to be on, she's like, I will be there in the chat. I got some questions. So, Sybilla, where would be your place? And it could be anywhere in the world. Where would you want to go? Who would you bring? Other than Jim. I know Jim's
I
coming.
would really like to go to where Ron Moorhead had his encounters. I'd love to go there with him and Scott Nelson and Tom Powell and Jim Myers and my friend Dr. Tom and Greg and Ronnie Powell. Those are my crew. Of
Ronnie
course,
Powell,
they-
your
yeah.
ex-research partner, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If I could go there, that would be like a dream. Oh, and Dennis and Shannon. Yeah. If I
There you
could go
go.
with all of those people, that would be would be heaven to me.
On horseback, of course.
On horseback, 7 miles or however it is,
8.5 miles, but who's counting?
both ways.
Who's counting? Yeah.
It looks like an amazing place, that Humboldt County area. You can
Yeah.
tell it's Humboldt County. Wow. I mean, nothing happened when Dave went there, but the chances are damn good. And like he said, there's a mystical quality to that place. I think, man, that's another place. So I have to have that on my list. So I also would want to go to Canada. I saw a place today that I can't recall. I was actually watching a Bigfoot documentary prior to coming on air with you guys. And this guy went out there solo, and I loved it. And there was a waterfall. He had a brilliant location, but he got in the Jeep after about 24 hours because nothing happened. I'm sure he had a rock clack and he had a wood knock. And then he beat feet, went to, so I got to finish second location. But now that you mentioned Sybilla, that would be another place where Moorhead went that would be,
Yeah.
I would want to go. That's a great one. So,
Even if nothing happened, just to be there, just to see where it all went down. Like I would just love to.
dude,
love
they
to
should
see
they should rebuild the tree fort,
Yeah.
the structure they had.
Well,
Totally.
and I say I want to go back. I would want to go on horseback, but the last time Ron went in with Scott Nelson, Ron and his horse and the pack horse fell off the trail twice down the side of a mountain. So
I forgot about that. I heard that.
yeah,
Very
yeah,
dangerous.
it was bad. He nearly lost his life. So didn't fall off; they were spooked off the trail. So bizarre, bizarre
yeah,
stuff.
because what's a horse going to do if Sasquatch is anywhere near that trail, and they emit that infrasound or get anywhere close? Forget about it. You're gonna.
Well, Ron's horse fell off the trail. Scott's horse just stopped like it was frozen for like 30 minutes. Didn't move. So it's how they react is different. I mean, the last thing you want them to do is to tumble and you're on their back. So
Well, they found a horse upside down, right? There was
they did that night. The Sasquatch turned one of their horses upside down and jammed it between two trees, and they never heard
Obviously
the horse
dead.
make a noise.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
this
still
stuff-
alive. The horse wasn't hurt, but
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
no. They pulled him out from between two trees, and he kind of stood up, shook himself off, and he was like, "What's up?" And
Oh my god!
but he was lying there with his legs up in the air, butt up against one tree, neck up against another, upside down, and.
That is like, oh my god! I don't even know what to do with that one, Tim.
I mean, this
Tim,
was
what
the
do we do with
biggest horse. The biggest horse that they had. He was probably 1,300 pounds, and upside down. So,
Well, some of the tree structures in the Pacific Northwest, the weight of those trees.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've seen some ones in Florida that are. I've seen some in Florida that are not that big, and some that are kind of big. But the ones in the Pacific Northwest, you cannot move those without
No.
heavy equipment.
no,
I don't care if you got 50 guys out there. I don't know how they do it.
I don't either.
their
You hear
strength. Their strength is amazing.
Yeah. You hear Rich Germeau. Have you heard his stories? Rich Germeau, the former Washington
Yeah.
police officer. His encounters, some of them are just that one on La Push Road where he's the first encounter that he had where so there's a little swimming hole there. And these people are there swimming and there's a little beach and they're having a good time. And the creature gets up, walks across the road in front of Rich. It was within 50 feet? Within 50 feet watching these people, play in the water. That's nuts, right?
And then they're building a teepee structure in the road just
yeah.
before his truck gets there. They knew
Yes.
he was coming. They built this thing in the middle of the road, and he's like, "I'm out, man. I'm out. I can't do this anymore." And
The whole design that they and
yeah,
there was stuff around
it was
that
his
made a big
design.
circle.
It was
Yeah,
his design that he would
You're
use
right.
when he would go out.
Oh yeah.
He
All
stopped
these
for a
guys
long
about
time.
that.
He's
Tell
still
Bia
doing.
and Tim. the whole story. Because this is good. How he built a specific structure so as not to
Right.
have anybody play around with him. Go ahead.
So he had been doing this for a long time. He would put at different times he had 10 cameras out. Right. He would go put all these cameras out trying to capture them. What changed it for him was he was checking his camera on one occasion and had a ball cap like mine. He takes the camera, he's looking down at it, he hears a noise like in front of him. He knew what it was before he even looked up, and he said you're looking down, and as he's looking up, he raises his sight is coming out from under the cap, and he says this Sasquatch is moving to get in his field of view, moving sideways. And he looks up, and it's standing there looking at him, and so he was terrified, and he walks away, and that started him really thinking. He gets away, didn't hurt him, terrified him obviously, but then things started happening at his house where he gets out of his car one night, comes home, gets out of his car, and hears a scream right across the road in the woods, like right across the road from his house. And he knows that scream, and he's like, oh my God, they're right here. Then his wife calls him, and she says she and their daughter are out in the yard playing. They're in the grass, and these little pebbles start landing around them. So not only they knew where he lived, but they knew when his family was outside, and they're like, ding, ding, throwing these pebbles. He and Dave even, I think Dave that was with Scott, but same kind of thing, throwing little pebbles on the roof of the building and stuff. And then this incident with the teepee structure happened. At that point, Rich was like, okay, they know where I live. They know, they even knew, okay, I'm trying to remember the story. They knew.
So I can help you with this because I know
with the bedrooms.
Yes. Where
if
his
you remember
wife's
that story,
bedroom-
yes.
That really freaked him out. He took first of all, he took them coming to the house. When he opened the door of his car, he said the wood line was very close to the house, and he said, I took that to mean we know where you live.
Yeah.
Because you're coming to where we live, we know where you live. The next thing that happened is when he was a federal law enforcement officer, he was patrolling an area that I think was some sort of a shipping area, or it was a seaport area or something. And there was only one way in and out of this. And when he had been building a certain type of structure, so that when he went out there, if he saw if he saw something different, he knew, okay, they changed the one that I had, and he built it in a certain way that was, let's say, distinctive from what they were building. And then he found that structure in the middle of the road that led to where his duty area was, he said was quite highly trafficked. And when he drove in there, he couldn't figure out how they would know that he was driving out of there, because somebody should have run that over with the amount of traffic. He's not saying it was a high traffic area, but it was high enough that somebody should have been coming in and out of that facility and run it over. And he stopped and saw something that was, they put a design around it, and then basically the structure that he made. And that really freaked him out.
But there was another incident. I believe the thing that ended it for him for a while was he and his wife were sleeping in different bedrooms, not for personal reasons, but there was an issue with one of their sleep patterns or something, and that it was hard for them to sleep. So, and I'm trying to remember, he found something that told him that they knew he and his wife were sleeping in different bedrooms.
Yes, I
and
remember
he's
that
like,
now.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And he stopped researching for years. He just completely pulled away. I think he started again now, but for years, he tells a story, I believe, in A Flash of Beauty, which if you've never seen those two films, I highly recommend them.
Outstanding.
But Rich tells the whole story there. And if you want to hear the rest of that, but again, a cop, he's trained to
Former
observe
Marine.
and all these things. And yeah, And great story as Rich tells it. So
I can get him on. I got his phone number. So if you guys want to interview Rich, we can get this whole crew back on here, and we'll get Rich on here. He's very, very compelling, and there's an audio that goes beyond what the film does, that tells more detail. I don't know if it's Hartstein Island and all his experiences there. Plus, I mean, Rich was using police resources. Rich was using police resources to look up Sasquatch sightings so that he could inform his investigation areas. So he was pretty smart.
very smart guy, great guy, very, very personable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
And he's-
it changes the whole tone, though.
Yeah.
When you're investigating, when you realize these things have intimate knowledge of your home, your household, your family, like that, I'm sure that's how it was for him. Where all of a sudden, like you're researching them, and then you realize these creatures are not what we think they are. They have to be
Because
something.
they've been observing you.
Yes.
That's the thing. And that's why they know, like you're talking about, they know that when you're coming to the end of the expedition, that's when they start to come out, because they've spent a few days already observing you and probably gathering more information on you than you have on them.
Absolutely. So
It
that
can be very intimidating.
just the whole concept that this is just some kind of primitive ape.
Right.
I can't. It's only people who I guess haven't had them invade your space like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
we can't figure out to go to the kind of the point that Bia and both of you are talking about, and we've heard these narratives. Tim and all of us have heard these narratives except Bia. You'll be in an area researching and so forth, and you'll get in your car, and let's say you drive 6 miles away, 7 miles away. We don't understand how they're able to find your house after you've driven away in your pickup truck or your four-wheel drive, and you drive home. How do they find out where people live? I don't know that. I don't know if
Because they
Tim or-
watch your patterns.
well,
but-
watching your pattern doesn't give.
But
it
it's more
your
than
address.
that. It's more than
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah. It's like they've connected. They've connected with
Mentally
your
or-
consciousness. Yeah, they've
Yeah.
connected with your consciousness somehow. That's why I guess so many people do think they're multidimensional. Not just that people have seen them disappear and stuff like that, but I have this. I found this the other day. I was looking for it. I have this rock. See this?
Mhm, yes,
This
it's darker
this
color.
this showed up in my camper. I was camping in the national forest for like 4 months, and before I would leave to go get supplies for the week, I would always, of course, lock all the windows, and there's just one door. It's just a 19-foot camper, and I'd head into town. It would take me. I was way out in the middle of the national forest, so it would take me at least 30 minutes just to get up a bunch of dirt winding roads just to get to a highway, and then have to go into town. Anyway, one time I came back and with groceries, unlocked my camper door, and this was right in the middle of the floor, like right when you open up the door and you step in the camper, it's right there in the middle of the floor. It's a rock I've never seen before. I mean, it
So
didn't
this
come in on my shoe or anything.
No.
It just materialized inside there, and it's it's those kind of things that you're like, I'm sorry, but this is not some kind of this is something else that we're dealing with here.
And
Well,
they
it's like
left
the lady-
they left footprints in your camper.
No, it wasn't
they
the
did?
camper.
Oh, that was at the
It was at the house. Yeah,
house. Okay.
yeah. So
But
that
the-
was inside.
The young lady that you guys interviewed a week or two ago, that young lady, they manipulated the little Bigfoot hanging from her mirror.
Yes.
But the car was locked. This is the same
Yes.
scenario, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Similar.
can
Yeah.
they can do that. They can get. Why do they do that? Maybe because they can, or maybe they're showing you this is who we are. This is what we can do.
We like you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have destroyed your. Because there's other
Yeah.
people where they put massive dents in the side of their camper. I've heard that out in Washington State
Yeah.
where somebody rented a camper, and next thing you know, there's big fist marks in the side. And you guys have seen photographs of it.
Yeah.
They dent those metal campers like you can't believe.
Yeah. And
No,
they
it's
dented a
rough.
vehicle in Crittenden, didn't they?
Yeah, they totally crashed a windshield,
In your car?
No, it wasn't mine. It was the woman who lived there before.
When you went to before you went to
Before I got
research?
there, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Sissy's car, the woman who lived, who actually she was feeding him and everything. Her family had been feeding him, but I think Roger, her husband, had done something, maybe shot at them or something. He was always shooting at them, and they high centered her car because there was some railroad ties there. They high centered her car there and busted things out. Yeah, so they can. I mean, they can get really aggressive if you're aggressive too.
And that's what I was kind of thinking. Maybe during the freeze, you're in a trance, they get the information, and now they're testing you to see if you are a threat or not. Maybe.
Yeah.
And that's when sometimes you see differences in whether they're going to be aggressive or not.
Yeah. Well, I do think they study. I do think
Yeah.
I do think they like if you move into a house and they're in your neighborhood. I do think they study you to see what kind of threat you're going to be to their family. Like, do you have animals, and how do you treat your animals, and they, how softly you talk and the things that you do. I do think they're doing like reconnaissance on who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first moved to Crittenden, I used to spend an enormous amount of time outside so that they could get to know me and, be comfortable around me and stuff. But
And when we're camping, I think they're watching us first day, second day, depending on how long you're out there. So they've been watching you for days, probably, my guess is, to determine if you're a threat to them. Because they see, in my case, they see us walking around with handguns and stuff. So, which they know what those are. And so they're probably trying to figure out, okay, are these guys dangerous to us? And then they come into camp maybe when they've decided that we're not. And so...
well, they're just masters of intentionality too.
They
I
are.
think they can
They're
read
masters
people.
of intention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and half the researchers out there will tell you that they set their intention when they go out in the woods and they get there. I've done that the few times I've been out. I'm kind of like, I'll even like get out of my shoes, connect to the earth, and just kind of think about, okay, this is what my intention is, so that nothing thinks, so even though I'm armed, that I'm not there to shoot at something. Obviously it's for cougars and bears. That's what the hell you're doing in Colorado. You're not there trying to shoot a Bigfoot because you don't want to eat your.
Wouldn't
45.
do any good.
Right.
Wouldn't do any good.
Yeah. Most of the hunters who've had, their scopes on these things will tell you flat out that the gun I had was not big enough to do any damage.
To
Or it
actually
was too
kill
human.
it. Yeah.
Or
it's too human.
Yeah,
Right.
they're like, I can't. I'm looking at
I'm
it.
going to be guilty of murder if I do this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That too.
So DJ, that brings me to a question
Yes, sir.
for Sybilla and Jim. So first of all, I mean, you two have welcomed so many people to come to you and share their stories. I mean, hats off to you. I mean, I just think you guys are amazing at doing that. You have a personality that is open and non-threatening, and I think that's the people want to come to you. But so my question is based on that: is how do you get how do you get the witnesses really to let their guard down and share their stories with you?
Jim, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Well, I think part of it is we always talk to these folks before we get on the air with them. So we're trying to let them know we're not here to judge you. We're not here to criticize you. We're just here to listen. Sybilla's a very good listener. She asks very perceptive questions that let a person who's there know, oh, you really listened to what I just said. And so you're asking a follow-up question. And Sybilla and I both believe this is therapy for a lot of people, and it can be for us, but people who need to talk about it because they're suffering from PTSD, they're traumatized, they've never been able to talk to somebody about this, and it's not unusual for people to get quite emotional in the interview on the air, and because they're telling a story and they're feeling heard, and that's the main thing. Is I think, and Sybilla can address this herself, but we think we're helping people by giving them the chance to tell their story.
You are.
So, Sybilla, pick it up from there.
And when I first became a member of BFRO, I was shocked when I started talking to people, and they would start to tell you, because I just have a report, and I just start asking them questions because I'm like, well, if you would like, I published this report, and so, but I have to have some more information, and then so it's just would start pouring out of them, and they would, you would be on the phone, I would be on the phone for an hour and a half or 2 hours, for a 30-second sighting, because
Yeah.
in that 30 seconds, their whole reality shifted from, I had no idea this thing existed, never believed in it, thought it was a bunch of BS, to, oh my God, what am I looking at? And it's looking at me, and, and the impact that it's had on their psyche and in their perspective for the rest of their life, they're trying to work that out. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times people would just say to me, just this huge relief. Thank you so much for not dissing me, or making fun of me, or asking like questions, that make me feel like you don't believe me. They just needed someone to share that with. And so, I mean, I found out really early on, oh my gosh, somebody needs to be advocating for these people, because there's nobody doing that. I mean, their families, they can't, so many of them, they can't talk to their husband or their wife or their kids or their best friends. They just kind of like, oh yeah, what were you smoking? Like
Yeah.
people, they don't, they say offhand stupid things that invalidate what these people have gone through. And I mean,
Right.
our show with Joe just talked about that. It's like our people want to know the punchline. Yeah, well, what happened?
Yeah.
What's the next thing? And then they want to move on to, well, what's happened after that? But they're not dealing with the molecules that have been totally rearranged and stirred up in here. So I think I think I have such empathy, because there were incidents that happened in my childhood where I was not believed, and I was, totally invalidated. So I know 100% what that feels like, to be like so alone in like the what happened. And so I just have tremendous empathy for witnesses. And so when people reach out to me, either through email or like my website or whatever, I feel honored, really, honestly, that they're bringing something to me that they've never been able to talk to anybody about. And I feel, I kind of feel like it's God's purpose for my life to help people, honestly.
100%.
Well said.
What a great way to serve. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
This is why we do
Yeah.
true crime. We don't do
Yeah.
true crime because we want to shock people. We do it because we want to help the people that we see are being victimized. And sometimes,
Absolutely. And people
in the
can be
case of
victimized by being mocked.
yes,
I mean, I can't tell you, this has probably happened half a dozen times, where a couple will come to our outpost. They'll walk up to the counter. The husband will say, I got to tell you this story. And he starts telling this story, and it could have maybe happened a year ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And his wife's looking at him like, what? When did this happen? I've never. And she's like, why have you never told me this? And he'll say, because of that reaction. I don't want to be made fun of. And this really happened, and it really affected me. And, I'm sure there were conversations as they left in the car that, like, what's up with that? But they finally felt like they could tell someone this story. And for many of them, they've never told anyone, colleagues at work. Who wants to be made fun of, really? I mean, none of us want to be mocked. And so it's just, on in my own time, one of the things I do is volunteer for our county coroner's, our county coroner on the care team. And the only reason I do it is when there's a death in Bailey, one of us on the care team will go be with the family, help them figure out what happens from here.
Wow.
And I'm like, the only reason I do that is because I care about people, and to make that impossibly hard day just a little bit easier for them. And Sybilla and I both feel very strongly that if we can help someone who's been in some way traumatized by either their encounter or by people's reactions to their encounter, then we want to do that.
Yeah.
So anybody who's out there that's kind of wondering, okay, why are you doing a YouTube show? Like, why do you do this? So if I look down and I look to this way and I look down at Sybilla down there, this is the reason why I do this, is because you end up meeting people like you. And actually, Bea and I have talked about this lately. It's not about money. It's not about likes and followers and views. That's not what's going to, but the fact that I hadn't talked to Sybilla in probably a year. And then when I asked her to come on the show, I hadn't talked about, I've been so involved in Karen Reed and true crime, but when I moved to Colorado, I said, oh man, I got to go see Jim. And then I went and see Jim, and he was so welcoming up there. And then I'm like, okay, I got to get back into Bigfoot. I just, I just have to, I can't. But we spent so much time on Massachusetts justice and Karen Reed being wrongly accused. Tim is aware of this whole narrative about Karen Reed, and you guys welcome me back. So this is really what it's about. It's not about what a lot of content creators think about. It's about these sort of friendships that you make. So
Amen.
I thank you so much for what you're doing for your communities, and what you're doing for people. I had a UFO sighting when I was a kid. Never even told my parents, nor did the kid that was with me, because we're like, hey man, if we go and tell now, we're just going to get made fun of. They're not going to believe us, and we're going to look like idiots. So we never told. But 30 years later, when I called him, we were able to talk about this. And that was the birth. I was actually in Vermont on a job interview for the National Guard. And that is what was the kind of the birth of when the idea of cab happened, was talking to this kid who saw a UFO with me. And then Bigfoot came later. So
Yeah.
You think it's easier for folks to talk about UFO stuff than it is Sasquatch related?
No, not necessarily. They're just different archetypes. For Sasquatch, you guys have probably like of 40 to 50% of your experiencers are hunters, not people that are actually out there hoping this is going to happen. And you have this idea that when you're in the woods and you have a 7 mag on you, that you're the apex predator, and the ontological shock that occurs when you find out you're not the apex predator and you just soiled yourself. That's something that's very difficult for a lot of people that have a certain view of themselves to deal with. So that person that came into Jim's shop, that person may have been on a hunting trip when this happened. I'm going to just tell you guys one I heard really quick. This one was this really kind of pissed me off. I'm going to tell you guys about this. It was a doctor from Aspen, and their family vocation was hunting. They hunted in Africa. They hunted in Australia. They hunted all over the United States. That was their thing. So he is an hour, 2.5 hours south of Aspen. I can't remember where they were. And they're getting their gear ready. And the father spots a Sasquatch up on a ridge looking at him. And it looks at him, and then it kind of walks away or runs away. Didn't do anything. He's like, all right, that's it, son. We're done. He's like, and pack it up and we're done. And the son's worldview was so shaken that when he was on a different hunting trip in Idaho, he shot one.
Wow.
For no reason. Like, just saw it there, just not even close to him, long range, and shot one because it scared his daddy. And I was like, you got bigger issues, man. If that's what you're shooting something for that you're not going to eat, and harvest for food, then you got some big issues. But I don't want to end the show on a negative note.
Okay, scratch that story. Okay.
No, it's awful. Yeah.
It is awful. Yeah.
But that's what I mean about ontological shock and somebody's worldview being just shattered because they had been on who knows how many hunting trips this family might have been on and never seen anything, and then all of a sudden they see one and doesn't do anything, and the next thing is the son takes a shot at one. And he said he found a blood trail at least part of the way through the brush. So I don't know. But anyway, so what do you guys think? Next time we get together, we have Rich on. I'll try to contact Rich.
I would love it. I would love that.
I would
Okay.
absolutely love that.
Okay, I might need your backup if he says no, but I'll give it a shot. All right, parting shots, Tim.
That would be great.
I will endeavor to make it happen. Go ahead, Tim.
No, just again, it was just good to see you again, Jim, and just an honor to you guys doing it. I just, as I said before, you guys are a open ear and a voice for people who want to share their stories where they have nowhere else to go. So kudos and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
You're
Nice to
welcome,
meet
and
you,
thank
Tim.
you very
Nice
much.
to meet you, Bia.
Boston Bia, what you got to say before we start booking Bigfoot expeditions on your 20 acres in New Hampshire?
Well, thank you both for coming on. It was nice to meet you, all three of you. And I mean, I think above it all, you've shown that you guys are amazing people and a safe space for people to come to you with no judgment. So if we've learned anything is that you're willing to keep an open mind and listen and help in any way you can. So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
You guys are total badasses. The things you do. Hopefully, now that I'm settled, I got me a house here in Colorado. Hopefully,
There
I'll
you
be
go.
able to get out with Jim.
Yeah, man.
And learn something about what the hell's going on.
Anytime,
in the
my
Colorado
friend.
woods. That would be great, man. I definitely got to get up and see you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Sybilla. Thank you, Jules. Thank you, everybody in the chat. I'm sorry we didn't get to everything. Like Eddie Vedder's playing down there, we got to save it for later. But I'm gonna try to put this back together and bring on Rich Germeau, and we're just gonna get all kinds of Washington State up in this joint. All right.
There you go. Awesome.
All right. Bye, guys. Take care. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
You
Bye.
too.